Good evening, everyone, and good morning to some of you who are in Europe or other parts of the world. Hope all of you have had a good week. Most of us go through life taking little notice of our thought processes, how the mind thinks, what it fears, what it heeds, what it says to itself, and what it brushes aside. For the most part, we go about our lives with minimal attention paid to how we think. We go through life neglecting one of the most important and powerful forces in our life, our thoughts. Joining us today, Sister Maureen from Perth has been studying and teaching meditation with the Brahma Kumaris for the last 37 years. She has traveled extensively around Australia looking after centers. And because of moving around so much, Maureen has developed the courage to try many new things and has increased her talents and life skills. Let us all welcome her together. Good evening, Sister Maureen.
Good evening. And it's a great pleasure to be here. And thank you for that nice welcome. And it's so nice to see so many people interested in just the power and effect of our thoughts. It's something that I'm really, really interested in. And I remember the first book I ever read, it was called This Thing Called Mind. And we talk about our mind all the time. But it's only since I've been studying meditation that I really, really started to understand this thing called mind. And we are all aware that sometimes we say that my mind is so busy. I can't stop my thinking. And it's true, we can't stop our thinking. But we do have some control over our thinking. And that's where I really want to focus today, on just being aware of the power, the effect of our thoughts, and how we can control them. We're not going to be able to stop them, but we can change them. And what happens is that if I start learning some methods or techniques, although thoughts can come, I can change them. And what happens is then I start to create some new habits and I start to think differently. And one of our very, very senior teachers used to say that you can see your thoughts coming. So she said, stop them before they come into your mind and sit down, take their boots off and make themselves at home. And that thought really struck me that it's so true, because we can make ourselves incredibly depressed just by having or going over an old memory of something that happened to me that hurt me a lot. And we can make ourselves cry, get really, really sad. Or on the other note, we can also make ourselves incredibly happy if we go back on a good memory and we think about that memory, we think about that time, we remember how we felt, we remember how much we enjoyed ourselves. And people will say to us, what are you smiling at? And all it is a whole lot of thoughts that you've brought into your mind that's created this incredibly happy feeling. So I'm in charge of this. And for a while, sometimes I can remember at the very beginning, I used to like feeling a bit sad sometimes, and I used to feel sorry for myself and like that feeling. But then I realized that I was creating a habit of it, and then I couldn't feel good afterwards. So I've really made and paid attention to not having thoughts to bring me sorrow. So how do I start? And luckily, there's some very creative people in our Brahma Kumaris organisation, and they started a course called the Positive Thinking Course. And it's an old course, and some of you have probably already done it. And it's used a lot. And the first lesson is just the 4 types of thoughts. And I might have presented this course many, many times, but it always leaves an impact. And especially the 2 thoughts, one to make us happy, one to make us sad. Because to make us sad, we have to use negative thoughts. And to make us happy, we have to use positive thoughts. And the example used is a battery. So all of us have to use batteries, in our devices. Like I've got this mouse in front of me, have to put batteries in it, and they have to face the right way. The positive has to be one way, the negative has to be the other, otherwise they won't work. And also, this is something to understand about ourselves too, that if we haven't experienced sorrow, we won't know the good feeling of happiness. So we do need both sides. We do need to know what positive is, and we do need to know what negative is, but we need to know what's more beneficial. And as far as I'm concerned, if we want a healthy mind, and what happens with a healthy mind is then we look healthier. And usually if you're out and about, and I often say, if you're in life and you're looking for a life partner, and people do, they go out and they look for someone that they want to spend their life with, are they going to go to the person who looks incredibly sad, incredibly stressed, incredibly depressed? Or are they going to go to the person who looks very light, very easy, smiles a lot, and just generally, when you go near them, you feel very comfortable? So what would your answer be? If you were choosing a life partner, where would you go? To the depressed one or to the happy looking one? And I hope we would go to the happy one, because the unhappy looking one or the depressed looking one, they would be a lot of work. It would be very hard to have a good relationship with them. And sorry. And so we're drawn towards the positive. We like it. And when things are positive, these positive thoughts that we have, they change our face. And that plus sign, it not only indicates positive, but also if I'm looking at the energy of my thinking or the power of my thinking, when I'm positive, I have more energy, because a positive thought plus gives me energy. And I can get a lot of things done. Just excuse me for a minute. I just have a little drink. So I can get a lot of things done when I'm positive. But if my thoughts become negative, what happens is all that positive energy I might have had, it's a minus sign for the negative. And so I'll lose that energy. And then what happens is I don't have the power to actually, even sometimes people have so many negative thoughts, they can't get out of bed. They don't have the energy to get out of bed. And what happens is if I have those thoughts over a long period of time, then I'm destroying the power of my mind. And they know today, the people have done lots of research that especially when there's illness, when there's difficult circumstances in our life, the people who recover well are the people who have positive thoughts, because negative thoughts can't help me to recover. And you've probably heard many stories about people who've managed to turn their lives around. And I have actually a friend who lives in Sydney, and she was a champion badminton player. She played for the New Zealand team. And when she was 16, and she was training to go to Beijing, actually, to play badminton, and she was riding her bicycle to training, and she got hit by a truck. And of course, when you're on a bicycle and you get hit by a truck, you don't actually come off unscathed. And so, of course, she ended up in a hospital with many, many broken bones and arms and legs and ribs and pelvic. And she also had to have a whole face reconstruction. And she said she ended up in a ward with lying on her back, and the doctors telling her she was going to be a paraplegic. And in her mind, she said, no way, I'm getting out of here. And it sounds impossible, but it was actually true. And I know her now. That happened when she was 16. She's now just over 50. She ran a marathon not very long ago. And she has plates in her arms and pins in her legs, you know, those steel pins. And her face doesn't move much, but she lives a very positive life. And I think, well, one of the things that really helps is if, well, for her, she was an athlete. And because she was playing for the country, the training tends to be more intense. So I often feel that elite athletes can push through barriers and they can recover a lot easier. But many of us aren't elite athletes. But one thing we have control of, and even if we started now, then if something happened along the track and I had developed this ability to always be positive, then all that training I put in, that would help me if something came up in my life. And that's why it's so important to be positive and to push through things. And so at the beginning, when I was getting introduced, she said I was able to develop many life skills. Well, I wasn't a very confident person when I started this meditation, actually. And I was actually got my palm read once, and the palm reader said to me, you didn't come into this birth thinking very highly of yourself. Because apparently he could see that in my palm. And, you know, that didn't leave a very nice memory for me. And I used to look at my palm and think, how could he say that? But I sort of discovered as I was going through my life that I never used to push myself forward a lot. And I used to let other people go first. And that was because I never felt confident enough to do it. But then one day I thought, no, I'm going to go first. I'm going to try this. And so that's how I kind of developed a little bit of a skill, like even using computers. That was like 25 years ago now. They came into our lives and they just took over, didn't they? One minute they were just in the background and they were something new. And the next thing, couldn't do anything without a computer, you know, and even now I can't even see my family at home because none of them acknowledge the technology, so they don't use computers. I can talk to them on a mobile phone, but they won't FaceTime me. It's quite interesting. But I realized at that time that if I didn't develop this skill, that I would be left behind, and I didn't want to be left behind. So that was just a thought in my mind, you know, if you want to move ahead in life, You have to develop new things. And there's a lot of power in that. And probably you all know that coming on to all these Zoom calls, sometimes it's challenging for us because we have to learn to develop this technology. It's the only way now that we're keeping in contact with each other. And so we have to break through these barriers. And what's helping us to break through? It's our thoughts. We're pushing through, oh no, it's too hard, I can't do this. But to say, I can do this and I want to do this, and if I want to have my communication, I need to do this. So these thoughts push us on. And they're plus thoughts, they're powerful thoughts, they're positive thoughts, and they move us forward. And they're very important. And those thoughts only I can have. I can have people encouraging me and trying their best to make me move forward, but ultimately, it's up to me. I have to have my own thoughts. And sometimes in life, right now, we're not in charge of much. No, we can't control what countries are doing. We can't control what armies are doing. We can't control what the economy is doing, but we can control what our mind is doing. And it's very important, our mind, because it's the only thing that keeps me physically and emotionally healthy. Very important how I use it. And more and more now, my thoughts have to change instantly because life's moving very fast. And one thing I understand is that, no one ever taught us how to think. They tried to teach us how to learn, but they never taught us how to think. And so now what I found just learning meditation is I'm learning the right way to think. And the more positively I think, then the better my life can be. And there's one power we sometimes talk about, and it's called the power to face. And there's a picture that we have with this power to face, and it's a man standing there and a tidal wave is coming towards him. And sometimes that's what life situations are like, aren't they? I'm just standing there trying to get through my life, and wave after wave of situations and problems and little things that need solving, they come at me all day. And if I'm working and I have to be mixing with people and I've got to change situations, even if I'm on the road and I'm driving, I have to be prepared for anything because anything can come out of anywhere. And I have to sometimes make split-second decisions. And the more I'm positive and I don't allow negative thoughts in, then the easier it is to make those split-second decisions. But there's another type of thought that comes after that. And these thoughts are in our mind a lot, and sometimes they chatter, and we're not even aware sometimes they're going on. And we call these thoughts waste thoughts. And I'm not sure what would be in Indonesian or in any other language, but in the English, we would say the what, the why, the when, the how, the who, and the where. And whenever something comes up, like someone will say to you, oh, so-and-so has gone to hospital. And immediately I would go, oh, why? And what happened? And where is she? Which hospital? And who took her? Or him, or whatever the situation is. And that's how the conversation goes. All these questions come in. And if maybe the question to me might be, can you please take me to the hospital to see so-and-so? And my response would be, oh, yeah, but who are you going to see in hospital? What are they in for? Da, da, da. And there's a 5-minute conversation before I even say, oh, sure, I'll take you. Have you noticed? And so poor person's waiting for an answer, but before they get the answer they want, they have to answer all my waste thoughts, all those what, why, when, how, and who. We might think they're reasonable questions, but can you imagine what it must be like? Someone's desperate to get to the hospital. They're incredibly worried about their family or whatever, and they've got to answer 50 questions before they can get a yes out of me. So, but the more I remain positive, then just say, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And then afterwards, I might find out why these things happen, but what happens is a lot of time can be saved. And sometimes time saves lives as well. So without all the unnecessary questions, then a lot more can be done. And for my mind too, it sometimes needs a rest. And if it's always chattering about what, why, when, how, and who, and sometimes that happens when we listen to the news and we see this going on and that going on, and we think, what was that person thinking? How could they have done that? And actually, last night I just caught a snippet of the news because I was testing the channel to make sure it was working. And somebody was driving round and round a park and nearly ran over all these workers who were working in the gardens. And I don't even know now why that person was doing that. But obviously it was a mental health problem. But what, why, when, and how, I don't know. But I just thought, that's only one little snippet I saw for about a minute, not even a minute. And it already started a few questions in my mind. And then I said, Maureen, just switch over, turn it off. It's not worth having the waste thought over. Because waste thoughts make us tired. They take away all our energy. That's the effect of them. And I know many of us have a habit of daydreaming. And maybe we're out shopping and then there's a big sign in front of us saying, oh, lottery being drawn tonight, $10 million. And we might see that and think, oh, what would I do with $10 million? Or whatever. And then I'll start to think about all the ways I'll spend the money. And I might spend 5 minutes having those thoughts. But what for? I'm probably never going to win. I'm never going to have the money. And yet I've just spent a whole lot of energy spending money I don't have. And it might not be that, it might be anything, but we can daydream about a lot of things. And once I was told it's like building castles in the air. I just fill up all the empty spaces in my mind with just a lot of waste, a lot of refuse. And today I was talking to someone and they said to me that the people are going to go up into the atmosphere and start clearing up all the junk in space. Because apparently there's a lot of junk up there, from unused satellites and all these kind of things. And basically, even in space, there's a lot of clutter and they have to get rid of it. And I thought, sometimes my mind feels like that. There's a bit of clutter in there and they have to clean out that junk. And these what, why, when, how, they have to go because they're wasting my time and they're wasting my energy. And it's all right if I'm learning something, some of us are studying and we might be studying a new job and we might have to learn what happens if this happens and that happens. But just generally, we don't have to know everything. We don't have to know so-and-so, bought a new dress and what happened while she bought the new dress, etc., etc. If it's educational, it's all right, but if it's not, then it's just not worth having the thoughts over, because too many thoughts, I just get tired. That's the effect of them. I get really exhausted. And you might have had days where maybe you haven't even gone outside, haven't even done anything physically, but you're absolutely exhausted. And it's probably because the mind has just run like a dog off its leash, round and round and round all day, just having aimless thoughts, no direction. And that's why I really, really enjoy meditation, because it makes me pay attention, makes me aware of what I'm thinking. And we even have this practice of what we call traffic control. And you've probably heard this many times, but I feel we can never be reminded enough that sometimes we need a stop time, a chance to just be quiet. And one of my stop times is when I'm driving and I'm in the car. Well, hopefully I'm in the car when I'm driving. But when I come to a red light, that's my stop time. And I take my hands off the steering wheel and I say, okay, now relax. What are you thinking? And generally my mind has gone somewhere. I've seen a sign, or maybe for the price of petrol or something, and I've started to think about it. And then I say, okay, I'll put my mind back on track again. I don't need to think about that. I know what the price is now. Let's move on. And then when the light turns green, then I start driving again. And then also be aware, who's on my right, who's on my left? Am I in the right lane? Am I going the right way? Because, I'm sitting in a car and I'm driving it and my mind's not even there. It's somewhere else. And a lot of people say when they have an accident, I just took my mind off it for a second, but that's all it takes, just 1 second, and life changes. So that's where I pay my most particular traffic control is, what am I thinking when I'm driving? Am I aware of what's going on around me? And one reason why I pay particular attention to that was because years ago when I lived in Melbourne, I worked for Australia Post and I used to drive a van. I used to have this title, a parcel delivery officer. And so I was the person who bought all the Christmas presents or the Easter presents, or, all the things that are ordered. Well, that time, only Amazon was online, but I used to bring all the parcels to people's places. So I was constantly on the road in the van, and mine was in a few places. One was the address of where I was going, because in those days we didn't have GPS. So we had to physically look at the addresses. And also my mind had to be on the road. And then I was driving one of the big red vans. So I also had to be aware of how close I was to cars and things like that. And one of the things they did for us was they took us on a safe driving course. And it was probably one of the best things I've ever done, because it really aligned with what it means to look after your mind while you're driving, because we talk about being someone who thinks, and I think, and I sit here in the center of the forehead and I look out through these eyes. My eyes are always scanning everything, and it's my eyes that distract me the most. And in the safe driving course, they were saying that with these eyes, you're looking out through the windshield of your van, and on the side you have these mirrors, and you also up the top have the windshield where you can look out the back. And they were saying a safe driver is always aware of what's going on one side, what's going on the other, and what's going on at the back. But if I'm daydreaming, I'm not aware. So they taught us how to keep scanning, to keep our awareness up. And it's really, really helpful for our thinking. It means, okay, I'm not going to be looking outside, but I'm going to be looking inside. And I'm going to be thinking, you know, what am I seeing? What am I hearing? What am I smelling? What am I tasting? And the other sense is, what am I touching? So I'm doing like a safe driving on the inside, because I'm in charge of all these things. I'm in charge of what I smell, what I hear, what I see, what I taste, and what I touch. And also what I speak. Because what happens with my thoughts is sometimes I can say out loud what I'm thinking. So if I'm not scanning my thoughts, I can say something that could pretty well upset someone. And especially if my thoughts are not positive. And in term, we often call it, people who don't pay attention to what they're saying after they've thought it, as they call it, foot and mouth disease. Because when you say something that's not right, they say, oh, I've just put my foot in it, you know, because I've thought something and then I've spoken it. And sometimes in a relationship, that's irreparable. People will never forgive me. And sometimes it just has to be once I do that. People will always remember. Because, and if you think about it, if it's ever happened to you and someone said something to you and it's been a bit negative, you always are a bit wary of that person. You don't really forget what they said. So that's why the practice of positive thoughts is really good, because it means, no, I allow things to be. And one thing I know I came with before I started meditation was I was always a bit of a critical thinker. And I often think it's because my mother was a little bit obsessive compulsive about cleaning and about tidiness. And so we were always a little bit on edge, like in our childhood, in case, you know, if we took the newspaper and read the newspaper, we didn't put it back properly and it wasn't folded properly. We always got like a bit of a telling off. And, you know, we took something out and we didn't put it back. She would always say something, and I know I was a little bit nervy and on edge because of that compulsion that she had. And she probably wasn't even aware of it, that she was doing that to us, but the effect of her thinking had an effect on me anyway. And so it made me very critical in making sure that what I did, everything was put back right. And if it wasn't put back right, I'd think, that person didn't put that back right. You know, and it's interesting how, you know, just something like that can affect how you see things and what people do. And it wasn't until I actually lived with someone who was like super untidy that I was able to change that. Because I can remember it used to bother me so much that they just left everything everywhere. And I was having all this waste thought, like quite a lot of waste thought. And I actually went to one of our senior yogis and I said to her, you know, I can't stand this. I can't stand living with this person because she's just super untidy. And that person said to me, look, if it's bothering you, you fix it. It's not bothering them, it's bothering you. So if you don't like it, you tidy it. And, you know, it was probably the best advice I ever got. And I thought, yeah, it's true, you know. And actually now I stay with someone who is a little bit like that. not bad or anything, but she's actually a super good cook, but she's not a super good cleaner. So the way we work together is I clean and I let her do the cooking. And it works really well. And I thought, yeah, that piece of advice has really helped me later on in life. I mean, sometimes if you can't change things, then you need to work with what you've got. And often, if people are going to change, they won't change often from what we say or what we think. They'll change from what we do. And I've noticed just a little bit how at the end of the day, she now tidies up a few things and puts everything away, whereas that never used to happen. And I never ever said anything to her. I just acknowledged, okay, she has that, we call it sanskar, she has that habit. And I'll just work around it. I'll deal with it because it's not bothering her, it's bothering me. And we have a really good relationship because of that, because I'm not going to have waste thought over a few things left lying around. It's just not worth it. No, I'll get really tired. I'll get really upset. And at the end of the day, what's better, a friendship or, a tidy house? And they often say a lot of marriages break down over these silly little things. And they use this term, the straw that breaks the camel's back. I think might be familiar to some, but what it means is, little things over a long period of time, they build up, and often they make the joke, the lid left off the toothpaste. But, the toilet seat joke, or I don't know, just little things, they're just small things. And then the waste thought that builds up over that, over a long period of time, it's the cause of the biggest argument. And then people leave each other. And when they reflect back on it, all that energy wasted, and that's the power and effect of negative thinking. It can destroy a marriage even because of that energy being wasted all the time and it's negative. There's no energy to put things back together to repair it. So that's why positive thinking is so important, and it's why it's also so important to see things in a positive way. And we have many slogans to help us do that. And one of the slogans is that, okay, what I'm in my life now, I can't change what happened in the past, but whatever's happened in the past is good because it's led me to here. And whatever happens now is very good. And then if I make some changes in my life right now, then my future will be even better. And I really like that slogan because right here, right now, I have a choice of where I want to go in life. And right here, right now, I have a choice of what to think. And I choose actually to think positively or negatively because I can see my thoughts. And often we say that there's two parts to our mind. And so we don't often say that. That's what we teach in the course. So there's one part of me that's subconscious. So it's been described as my memory bank. And inside my memory bank, and it's a bit like the hard drive of a computer, everything I've ever done in my life is stored there. Everything. And then there's my conscious mind. And it's been described like a screen. So if I look up, I can see some thoughts on the screen of my mind. And what happens is things in life, even just like a question. So a really good example I always use is that, if someone asks you, would you like to go to the beach for the day because it's sunny? I'm not sure if that's something you would do, but obviously when the word beach is mentioned and sun is mentioned, it would bring up some impression or some memory. And on the screen of my mind, there would be a picture. So maybe if I was in China, it would be a really crowded beach. Maybe if I was in Bali, it would be, the tourists are all there, but the water's really blue and it's nice. And if we're in Perth, I mean, there's some beautiful beaches here and it's free parking. So it's quite nice to go to the beach for the day. So according to our impression that's stored in our memory bank, it will create a picture on the screen of my mind, and then I will have thoughts accordingly, according to that picture. Some people might have had bad experiences at the beach, so it might bring up that memory. And if you think all day long, people are speaking to us and asking us things and conversations going on, and all day long, all these pictures are coming up from my memory bank and they're putting an impression onto the screen of my mind, and I'm thinking according to that. So, and if there's a saying, if I keep having the same thoughts, I'll keep having the same feelings. So if I want to change, then I have to see that impression and then change how I see it. So that slogan, okay, that's happened. That's good, I know this now, that if I change how I deal with this now, then my future can be better. And so many, many things in our life we often regret or we wish hadn't happened. And if only I had said that, or if only I had done that. And how many times have we had those thoughts after the fact? But the fact is, we can't change it. At that time, we made a choice, we did it, and it's done. Okay, now I have to deal with it, but that's okay. If I can understand, okay, it's done, full stop, let's move on. If I have to do some repair. And by repairing, I mean, maybe I have to apologise. Maybe I have to pay a debt because I decided to spend money that I didn't have, whatever. But whatever has happened, it's happened, full stop, can't be changed. Let's move on. Or we would say, Om Shanti, just, move on, because there's nothing we can do to change what I've already put into action. But what I can change is my response to it now. And that's the power and effect of our thoughts. I don't have to be ruled by them. I can overrule my thinking. I'm in charge. So I can see now that it's getting to 45 minutes. I just wondered, would you like me to stop now, or would you want me to talk for a bit more?
You can go on, sister, no problem.
Okay, has anyone got any questions yet?
Not yet. We don't have any questions as yet.
Okay, that's fine. So just one other thing I'd like to mention is that there's two things that are created through thoughts. And actually, the first one is atmosphere. And you'll notice when you go into different people's places, every time you go in, there's a different atmosphere, isn't there? You get a different feeling, different people's places. And that's because the way that people think, it leaves an atmosphere. So one of the things that I found really beneficial, especially with understanding this, is that if I want to create a different atmosphere in the place that I live, then I need to find a place maybe to just sit and maybe contemplate and have some positive thoughts. So we would say, where I have my meditation, choose a little corner, choose a chair, choose a place that not everyone always uses, and use that place to create like a little invisible screen of positivity. And people will feel that, because, if you walk into a church or you walk into a mosque or walk into a temple or just some place where people have like devotional thoughts, love for God, love for their deity, just love for silence, whatever it is, there's a different atmosphere, isn't there? We feel it as soon as we walk in. So if I can do that at home, I can find a place where maybe for even 2 to 3 minutes a day, I sit in that place and I just have positive thoughts, maybe just about myself. So one of the words they say is like the universal chant is Om. And in English translation is I am. So a very positive way to think about myself is, first of all, my original nature, I am peaceful. Or if I want to be brave and I have to face a challenge, to just sit and think, I am powerful. And I can create lots of words around the word power. I don't have to have lots of thoughts. It could be, because I'm powerful, I'm strong. And because I'm strong, I can have determination. And because I have determination, I can be strong. And because I'm strong, I'm powerful. And I can just play with that cycle of thoughts. But the key is to always be thinking, I am this. And that changes the atmosphere. And it also changes how I feel. Because too often, people are very quick to tell us what we are not. But we don't have to accept that, because inside, I'm a totally different person than what they might be seeing. Because originally, I am a peaceful being. I am powerful. I am strong. And I really like this one. I'm in control. And I'm not going to be controlled by what others think. And I use that a lot, because sometimes what happens with people is they try to project how they're feeling on us. But just because they feel like that doesn't mean to say that I'm like that. So if we want to be aware of the atmosphere we're creating, if we want people to look at us differently, then we have to generate it from the inside. And sometimes just a couple of minutes each day of talking to myself and bringing back my origin, my original nature. Not what other people have told me I am, but what I really am. That helps a lot, a real lot. And, we've heard that term special effects. Sometimes in movies they have special effects. Well, what happens is, if I feel good about myself, then people get a different feeling about me. And I call that a special effect. And it's the special effect of, I think positively about myself. Because probably the worst kind of negative thoughts we can have is not to think highly of myself. And one of the biggest causes in the world today of lack of self-respect is always looking on the outside, but not looking on the inside. So I would say body image. People always looking on the outside. And, it's a huge problem in Australia. I heard that girls as young as 16 and 17 are not happy with how their bodies are. And so they're already getting implants, they're already putting lip fillers in and fillers here. They're only 16 and 17, and already the image that's been projected to them on the outside, they're not happy with, because on the inside, they don't have good feelings about themselves. So they try and project it to the outside. Not working anymore. These people end up very unhappy, because I can only create happiness with my thoughts. I can't create it with adults. So that was actually what I really wanted to talk about. I wanted to just make you aware that I'm the master of my own mind. I'm in control. And I like all these things, these I am statements. And I don't have to let things affect me. I can walk away from things and don't get upset about things. And from my personal experience, I was in hospital for 11 weeks. I had something wrong with me, Sun syndrome. And although everyone else thought it was pretty serious, I was just really happy that I had met a really good doctor. He knew what was wrong. He said, you'll have to stay in hospital and you'll have to follow this treatment plan. And of course, it was pretty allopathic and it was full of steroids. But I thought, no, I'm going to do this because I don't feel you would have come into my life for no reason after I'd spent about a year not knowing what was wrong. So I decided to take it in a positive step. And I often feel this doctor was God sent. I mean, if he hadn't come, I don't know what would have happened. So anyway, I was actually in the hospital for 11 weeks and people asked me, oh, don't you want to get out? And I was thinking, no, I was having a really good holiday in there. It was just a time to step away from my life, which was quite challenging and quite busy, and just be for a while and just enjoy. And I was really fortunate that just off the ward where I was, there was a room that had these big windows. And in the morning, I could go out there and have meditation and look out the window and watch the sunrise. It was so beautiful. And of course, in the early hours of the morning, like 4 and 5, no one was around except the emergency doctors or whatever. Sometimes some of those doctors used to join me and have a quick sleep before their next operation, but it didn't matter. I was there and I just enjoyed. But what I particularly observed was how much people's thoughts affected their treatment. I know for myself, I used to see the thoughts coming of, oh, woe is me. And I remember once I got a clot and then I had to have all this stuff put in me, and I didn't really want to, but it's the only cure. And then I thought, I could see all these thoughts, oh, they're putting poison in my body, etc. And then I'm thinking, no, Maureen, don't have those thoughts. This is making you well. This is happening for a reason. So just let it happen. And it's quite interesting how then I could relax and calm down. But I watched other people who got really upset about the treatment they were getting and the drugs they were taking. And one thing I didn't take was any painkillers because I really didn't want to lose control of my mind. But I saw people who were put on morphine for a few days and how they got incredibly depressed. And I saw the effects of that kind of painkiller. Then they'd have to wean themselves off it. So what I mean is that, well, the point I'm trying to get to is things will happen in our lives, but we have to be able to have a strong mind to deal with things. And if we don't have any tools, and unfortunately, I know that a lot of those people didn't have any tools, and so they didn't know how to deal with things. But I felt very lucky that I had some tools that I could learn how to deal with it. And I was able to talk to many people while I was there, because people came and went, and try and not so much talk to them about meditation, but just about just look on the bright side, enjoy the rest. I used to say, think of this like a little hotel for a while, and it's like going to a spa, and I just need a bit of repair and rest and repair, and then I can go on with my life. But so that's what life's like, isn't it? Everyone will have a different challenge, and but we have to use our mind to deal with it, because the only thing I'm in charge of is my thinking, mostly. Okay, I'm Shanti. So are you wanting to finish with some meditation, or?
Yes, sister, I was just going to say thank you. You have highlighted a lot of points for us. But most importantly, what I thought of is the slogan that we have, that think before you think,
Yes.
which is wonderful. It is a bit hard, but it is a wonderful slogan. So before we start with the question and answer, what I took from today's session is, just like the wind, which is invisible but can be powerful, so are our mind and thought. There will always be events and circumstances in our life that we cannot control. But if we learn to control our thoughts, our mood and behavior no longer depend on circumstances, but it depends on us.
Mm-hmm.
When we regain control over our thoughts, we regain control over our feelings and actions. Our thoughts shape our reality, and more than anything else. Therefore, not having control over one's thoughts equals to not having control over one's life. Thank you, sister.
Okay.
So, if you could lead us to a minute of silence or a meditation that you can guide us on, how do we divert our mind when we have waste thoughts or negative thoughts? And then we can do the question and answer.
Okay. So right now, I'm going to allow myself to just be quiet, to be still, and be at peace. I'm just going to be quiet, be still, and be at peace. I'm allowing myself this time. I'm giving my mind a rest. I'm just going to be quiet, be still, be at peace. All those thoughts that want to chatter in, shut the door. I'm allowing myself to be quiet, to be still, to be at peace. I'm taking charge of what comes into my mind. And right now, I'm just going to be quiet, Be still. Be at peace. Om Shanti.
Thank you, sister. There have been some comments on YouTube that I'll read it out to you before we start with the first question. Best agree that to make adjustments and to live what you said, that when somebody is not the way you expect them to be or you want them to be. And thank you very much for the wonderful sharing. You have highlighted the little bits and pieces which can irritate us and how to overcome them. So our first question is, I would be grateful if you can tell me how to increase my attention span. A few suggestions would be enough.
Well, that's a good question, isn't it? How to increase my attention span. I feel just a little bit. Oh, sorry, someone's just come into the door and I'm the only one here. But my attention span was just taken away. But how I increase my attention span, I think just what we did then, take moments for yourself just to be by yourself, like right then, right now, just telling yourself to be still and be quiet, be at peace. And those focus minutes or 30 seconds, build them up into 5 minutes and then 10 minutes. And like meditation is the tool actually to increase our attention span. But I remember when I first started, it was 5 minutes at a time, building up to 10 minutes and not trying to do too much at once. That would be my suggestion. Moments of awareness rather than hours of awareness.
Next one is, sister, why thoughts enter my mind when I try to focus? I think what it's meant is that when we try to meditate or sit in silence, and then thoughts tend to come in.
They do. Like I said, they're always, you mentioned that, you know, that where they wait at the door for us, but it's our choice. We can just close the door and say, I'm not going to think about you now. I just want to be still and I want to enjoy my peace. And then, because I can remember when I first used to meditate, I would be thinking about what I was going to have for dinner, or I have to do the washing and, you know, start to create a whole list of the things I was going to do the next day. So these are the thoughts we say, look, I'll do this later. I just want to enjoy my quiet time. So we have to talk to our mind, but nicely, just nicely.
Yeah, I was going to say the same. Sometimes it happens to me as well, that just when you sit and meditate and all the things that you need to do, the to-do list just comes up.
It does.
So, yeah, so what has helped me is that often I just take a pen and a paper or a pad and I just write down and I say, okay, I will see to this, but right now it's my time. It's time for myself. So thank you so much, Sister Maureen, for joining us today and sharing with us.
No, thank you for inviting me. It was really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it was wonderful. And thank you everyone for joining us. Our next session will be on the 5th of December at 4 p.m. Jakarta time. I've dropped my number. If any of you are interested, kindly message me and I will provide you with the meeting details. There's another thank you message that has come in. Thanks, Sister Maureen, for a powerful reflection on power of thoughts. We are what we think.
Mm. Okay, well, thank you for inviting me. It's nice to see everybody, and we'll do this again.
Yes, we will, indeed.
Okay.
Thank you. Until then, stay safe, stay
You too.
blessed, and have a
Okay.
nice weekend.
You too.
Om Shanti.
Shanti.